Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing a clean and simple card, but more importantly, I'm going to share 3 tips for creating simple cards that don't fall flat. Sometimes clean and simple cards can be a little challenging to create because they can feel like they're missing something. So I'm going to give you 3 tips for creating clean and simple cards that are sure to shine. The products I'm using today are brand new from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm using this Garden Medley product suite, which includes a cling stamp, a press plate, a coordinating die, as well as a stencil set, and the brand new Sunshine and Smiles sentiment set. So I'm starting out with the Garden Medley press plate, and I'm going to do some hot foiling. Now, my first tip for creating a clean and simple card that doesn't fall flat is to add some shine, and that can be either in embossing, hot foiling, or even in your embellishments. So I'm allowing this press plate to heat up. I ran this through the timer for the Glimmer hot foil system, and then I removed the platform from the base and took it over to my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I'm adding the foil with the pretty side facing the pattern of my press plate, and then I'm adding my favorite cardstock for hot foiling, and that's the Concord and 9th white cardstock. I'm adding the thin shim and the spacer pad that come with the Glimmer hot foil system, and then running that through my die cut machine. Now I can look at this and see that I already got great results because I see that it's pressed into the paper in all the right areas. But look at that shine, and that shine is really going to bring this pattern to life on this card. I also hot foiled this image in black, and it is absolutely stunning. The hot foil in the black almost makes it look like the ink is still wet on the paper, even though this isn't ink. And if you don't have a press plate, you can always do some heat embossing with the coordinating stamp set instead. Now I'm taking the coordinating die and I'm die cutting out this image. Now I won't be adding any stenciling to this image, but this product suite does include a coordinating stencil set that's available for purchase so that you can color in all of these florals and the greenery. I'm using my dual tipped embellishment tool to poke out all those hanging chads, and now I have a beautiful background for my card. Now, my second tip for creating simple cards that don't fall flat is to add some dimension. So I'm taking the coordinating die and I'm die cutting 2 more layers of plain white cardstock to stack up behind my foiled image. Now, if you wanted to create some dimension with foam tape instead, you could definitely do that. But something this intricate is a little bit easier to stack up with additional die cuts. And also you kind of have a little more control over your depth because you can either add more die cuts to make it thicker, or you can add fewer die cuts to add just a low profile dimension. Don't underestimate the power of dimension on a clean and simple card like this, because that little bit of shadow that's created by the dimension can really bring the card to life. For my sentiment today, I'll be using the brand new Sunshine and Smiles stamp and coordinating die set from Pinkfresh Studio. This sentiment says, "Your kindness is sunshine for the soul," and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the scripty font with that more simple font, and I love that there's coordinating dies for this stamp set. Now I'm stamping this in Subversifying Clair Nocturne black pigment ink onto some white cardstock. And once I've stamped that a couple of times, then I'm going to remove it from my Misty stamping tool and I'm going to die cut it using the coordinating die. I ended up using a little bit of repositionable craft tape to hold my die in place as I sent this through the die cut machine so that it wouldn't shift around. Also, my magnetic mat for my Anna Griffin Empress machine is getting a little warped, and I'm finding that I'm getting more shifting with the warping. It's probably time to replace that magnetic mat. I've gotten a lot of use out of it. Now today I'll be using the brand new Pinkfresh Studio glue, but I wanted to transfer this into a fine tip glue bottle. So I have one of the Gina K Designs fine tip glue bottles, and I'm just squeezing this glue into the fine tip glue bottle. That's going to allow me to use this glue, but still have a really nice fine tipped point on my glue bottle. So you can see I have the 2-ounce version here. I'm just filling up this smaller glue bottle, and now I am ready to go. This glue is brand new from Pinkfresh Studio. I haven't used it a lot, but I've been impressed with it so far. It does come in a smaller 1/2-ounce size and kind of like a pin style applicator, so you can pick that up if you just want to try a little bit of this glue. Now to adhere these layers together, I am using this liquid glue on top of those plain white die cuts. And I just find that liquid glue is the way to go when you're stacking up die cuts because it allows you a little bit of time to kind of scooch your die cuts into place. If I had covered the back of my die cuts with a double-sided adhesive instead, I wouldn't be allowed the flexibility that liquid glue adds. So while it can be kind of a pain at times to apply liquid glue to these die cuts, I think it's the best way to go. And a few years ago, if you would have asked me if I would have been a liquid glue kind of girl, I probably would have said no. But I'm finding more and more that I'm reaching for liquid glue all the time. Now I'm going to add another layer of liquid glue on top of these two stacked up plain white die cuts. And once I have my liquid glue added to the front of that, then I can add my foiled piece. This is giving this die cut a little bit of dimension. It's creating a little bit of shadow on the front of the card. And if I'm being honest, that dimension and that thickness really makes this die cut feel like chipboard. It makes it feel really luxe, and I love the way that it feels when you stack up die cuts. I'm just using my fingers to make sure all of the edges are lined up and that I have this die exactly where I want it. Then I realized I had like one of those little Chad pieces between the two layers. So I took my dual tip embellishment tool, the little ball point end of that, and just pulled that out from between the two layers so that everything would lay nice and smooth. Now I'm going to start adding some elements to the top of my card, and I'm starting out with this elongated oval die. This is from the Pinkfresh Studio Essentials line, and I'm die cutting some vellum, and this is going to create kind of a soft landing place for my sentiment and allow it to kind of really pop out and not get lost against this beautiful background. But before I put that down, I am going to take a strip of this brushed black cardstock from Spellbinders. It has just the slightest bit of shine, and I'm going to add it on an angle on this elongated oval. Then I will just trim off the excess on either end and clean that up. Once I have the excess trimmed, then I'm going to add some foam adhesive to the back side of my sentiment, and then I will remove the backer from the foam adhesive and place that on an angle that follows that black cardstock, just kind of mimicking that beautiful angle that we have going on the front of this oval. Now, really, I'm bringing in dimension in a few areas, but if you wanted to skip an area of dimension, I would probably recommend skipping dimension on the sentiment itself and possibly on the back of this oval, but I would not skip the dimension on that background piece that we created because I really think it brings that background piece to life, and that's really the focal point of our card. Now you'll notice that I am really taking my time to get this oval in the center of my background, and that's because when you're working on a card that has very few elements, you want to make sure they are spot on. It just gives that final finished polished look. So I'll take a little bit of time, make sure that I have everything where I want it before I really press this down, and once I have it where I want it, I will press it into place. Now for my card base, I am going to use this golden cardstock. This is from the Stamp Market. It's cut to 5.5 by 8.5 inches, and I scored it at 4.25 to create an A2 size card. And that brings me to our final tip for creating clean and simple cards that don't fall flat, and that's to add texture. Now, texture can come in a lot of different ways, whether that's an embossing folder or a cover plate die, but in this instance, I'm using a background stamp. This is the Dainty Plaid background stamp. It is one of my favorite products from Pinkfresh Studio. I'm inking it up in some Versamark ink, which is going to give me a tone-on-tone look because I don't have any ink that coordinates with this particular cardstock. And I'm just making sure that I press all over this card as I lay it on top of the stamp to make sure that the ink has transferred to all the areas. Now, this little bit of tone-on-tone texture on my card base is really going to make all the difference in this clean and simple card. If you're using a white card base, I would recommend doing either a really soft gray or even embossing with white embossing powder on your white background. That gives a beautiful, shiny, tone-on-tone texture that cannot be beat. And I'm telling you, these 3 little tips for making your clean and simple cards stand out really do help. Some shine, some dimension, and some texture, and you're sure to have a card that will wow. I'm adding my background onto the card base using some more of that Pinkfresh Studio Glue. And now I have a black glaze pen here that I'm creating some faux splatter, just a few little splatters on that vellum oval to give just a little more texture to this card. I think splatters are a great way to add texture, and if you're not comfortable with just taking a paintbrush and just letting it fly, then I think a little gel pen like this or even a white gel pen can be a great way to add some faux splatter to your card. So that finishes off my card for today. You can see it is a very simple card, but it does not feel like it's falling flat at all, and that's thanks to the dimension, the texture, and the shine that this card brings. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there, or you can head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Over there, you'll find more information, more still shots, and a complete list of supplies. Don't forget to visit me over on Instagram because this card project is a part of an Instagram hop that's happening today. There's lots of inspiration and prizes to be had, and you'll find a link to my Instagram profile in the YouTube description below. As always, I want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I am so glad you are here. I hope you enjoyed this project. I hope you enjoyed these tips, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting, card making, and Carissa Crafts live stream broadcasts right here on YouTube. Thanks again for being here. I'm so glad you're here, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.